Hello everybody, it's Tim's BMW DIY here. Gonna do something different. Today we are going to have a discussion from the tool shed. I'm gonna probably start a new series called Tim's Tool Shed here. So the N54, it has a bunch of problems, and it's primarily all the ancillary items that are connected to the engine. It's not necessarily the engine itself or even the transmission. They're pretty good. It's everything else that's connected to the engine. And before you do modifications on your N54, there are a couple items that you need to address and take care of. And Exhibit A is going to be this guy right here. This is the N54 oil filter housing adapter gasket, and you can see that it's a brilliant piece of engineering here by BMW. It starts to leak right here and right here. It'll start leaking oil, and if it starts to leak oil on your belts, well, you're going to have some big problems coming. So the oil filter housing adapter gasket should be replaced if you have any signs of oil up front by your engine oil cooler. Let's go to Exhibit B. So, is there such thing as a cheap BMW? Well, the short answer is no. And let me explain why. So, my car, I paid $14,000 for it, and it had an MSRP of $60,000. And I bought it with 80,000 miles, and I drove it all the way from where I purchased the car 5 hours away, and it was fine. But that wasn't for long. What happened is, let's bring this out again, Exhibit A. This oil filter housing adapter was leaking oil onto the belt. This is an idler pulley, tensioner, excuse me. This is the tensioner. And what happened, I don't know if you can see that, is the oil dripping on the belt started to melt the plastic. These tensioners and pulleys, because they're made of plastic, are very sensitive to chemicals, and it doesn't do very well when it's up against radiator fluid or engine oil or brake cleaner, any type of chemical of that type. These pulleys just start deforming and melting, and then when that happens, you end up shredding a belt. Yeah, that one, if I would have known, I would have taken care of this right away, because it wasn't making any noises. And so, yeah, this one you're going to need to take care of your tensioner and all your deflectors. This deflector pulley I just recently replaced because, as you can hear, it's wasted. Let's get a good sound bite of that. And so this guy was making all kinds of noises, so I replaced him right away. If your belts and pulleys are making all kinds of noises, don't wait for something catastrophic to happen. Change them out. These cause more damage and are not that expensive. I think it's $150 for the whole kit. And this belt right here, this belt is not even, I think it's like a year and a half old, almost 2 years. And there is no visible cracking, no signs that it needs to be replaced. But the fact is I had this deflector go bad, and while you're in there, you might as well replace the belt. So it's very important that your idler and your tensioner be replaced, because they will fail, and it's really catastrophic when they do. There goes the camera. Sorry about that, folks. A little camera work there. Next up, let's get all this out of the way. Next on the list, ignition coils. If you're going to be modifying your BMW, you might as well do the coils and spark plugs. These are original Bosches that were still working fine, but at 90,000 miles, I said, you know what, it's time. I'm going to modify my car and my engine, put larger turbos. It's time. Don't wait for them to burn out and fail. Just preemptively take care of it. And I bought elder coils because people that have done modifications to the N54 have had a lot of success with them. They work really well. And they're super cheap. I think it was $150 for the whole set. They're good coils. You also want to do your spark plugs. These are my plugs after 90,000 miles. I don't know if they were changed before that, but when I pulled them out, everything had 90,000 miles when I replaced it. You're going to want to replace that. Alright, let's go to Exhibit C now. Now that we've got those maintenance items out of the way. Next on the list, valve cover. The valve cover heat cycles, and after a few years it starts to twist. And if it twists hard enough, you'll get cracking in the corners. This valve cover wasn't cracked, but when I pulled it off, it was warped. And when they're warped, they just leak from the corners. Back here is the most notorious. When you're checking these valve covers, go to the very back first. I recommend once you got your vanity cover off, you can go back to these corners. This one right here. Let's see if you guys can get a picture. This corner right here. And this corner over here. Yeah, those two corners, for some reason, that's where they like to crack. And it'll leak oil into the spark plug wells, and your car will misfire. So valve covers are cheap now. They're like $150, $200. So definitely replace that. You're gonna have to replace it. So if you're at 80, 90,000 miles, just buy another one and replace it. All right. Oh yeah, let's talk about turbos too, because we're talking N54s. These turbochargers, give you a good shot of that guy. Let's do it the right way. these turbochargers, at about 90,000 miles, you're going to start to develop wastegate rattle. And I mean, this thing sounded horrible at idle. Sounded like loose change is just going around in your engine. And the problem is the actuator, when it tries to actuate, it doesn't seal. It gets this radial play right in here. And you can see, let's see if I can demonstrate how much play. It develops so much play that you'll get a boost leak. Yeah, you can see it there. And when it does, it won't seal all the way. And that's why I ended up replacing my turbos. Because of the amount of slop. So much slop. So yeah, that's another issue with the N54s, are these turbochargers themselves. And one last thing I want to say. So is there such thing as a cheap BMW? Well, the answer is no. If it's cheap, it's because it's been neglected. You know, when I bought my car, I paid $14,000 for it. The car, brand new, was $60,000+. But my car needed around $8,000 worth of maintenance when I bought it. I didn't know that until later. So be wary when the price is really cheap on a BMW. Just know you have all kinds of work in front of you. And one more thing before I go. In your owner's manual, they talk about doing 1-year interval oil changes. Well, my experience as a mechanic throughout the years is that is a falsity. It's false in every way, because what happens is your oil control ring starts getting gummed up. Let me grab a piston and show you. This is a piston out of a Boss 351 Cleveland, and I ended up milling the head and shaving the deck down to make this a 12.5-to-1 engine with flat tops. But this oil control ring right here, if you think you can go a whole year without changing your oil, well, you're wrong. And here's why. This oil control ring, as it's going up and down in the cylinder bore, is scavenging the oil off the sides, and inside this ring are little holes, which then redirects the oil into the bottom side of the piston and then down back into your sump. If you go too long, this oil ring will get gummed up if you wait on your service interval. And when this oil ring gets gummed up, it will get cocked to the side like that. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but it'll get cocked, and then next thing you know, one side of your cylinder bore is wore out, and you'll realize, wow, all of a sudden you're burning a quart a week of oil. And for you M3 owners out there, that's a major issue with the V8 M3s. They, for some reason, have oil control ring issues. and the next thing you know, you're sucking down a quart a week. And it doesn't matter if it's an M3, an N54, a B58. Doesn't matter what engine it is. Don't neglect the oil. Change your oil every 3,000 miles. And it'll keep this oil ring from getting gummed up. And will basically keep you from consuming too much engine oil. And so that's my take on it. And I actually think the manufacturers are 100% wrong in telling people that you can go a whole year on one oil change. That's ridiculous. That's just a recipe for engine disaster later. So that's my take on it, folks. Just giving you guys, the N54 owners, little words of advice from experience. You don't want to wait for your belt to shred. Trust me. Having to pull the subframe, pull your oil pan, pull your valve cover, and then pick every little piece of spaghetti that's in your pickup tube, in your timing chain, in your vacuum pump chain. Like, my goodness. And those motors used right now are going from $3,000 to $4,000 for a used N54. So you can save yourself some money by just doing the preventative maintenance. Change those idler pulleys. Change the tensioner. Change this guy. It's the cheapest $100 investment that'll keep you from blowing up your engine. Honestly. But this is Tim with Tim's BMW DIY. Just wanted to share you thoughts from Tim's tool shed. Like I said, I'm probably going to do a series where I just do these talks about the tool shed. And, you know, maybe one of these days tell you some stories about my racing. This piston has seen over 10,000 RPMs. And this connecting rod. Yeah. Anyways, folks, this is Tim signing off. So long, everybody.